Hey everyone, and welcome back to another CZN video. So I know we've had a decent amount of time before my first video, but I've been trying to think of ways to best communicate stuff with this game because it's a little bit out of my realm from a comfort zone standpoint in comparison to the other game I cover. But anyway, I think I found the best way to communicate this to you guys, and we're going to start it off with a character guide on Rin. So I'm going to go over her cards. I'm going to go over the cards that you want to try an epiphany for when you're going through chaos. Her partners, potential that is important. Same thing with memory fragments. And then we'll just show a run of her, doing her thing because I think she's a bit underrated. I think she's a character that you can grow into. She might not seem as strong as some of the other DPSs at this point in the game because I think a lot of her value revolves around critting. She's got some very strong cards where if she's critting, she's doing a lot of damage. She's similar to Luke, in my opinion, where as the game progresses, I actually think she's going to get stronger and stronger. So, anyway, what you need to know about Rin is she revolves around this Dark Mist stance. Now, she has some cards that activate this, and then other cards that don't activate it, but get additional benefits from having it. So, two things to note there. That is important just for that one instance where if you have Dark Mist stance, you get additional effects. Like on her drawing slasher, you get 50% damage. Down here, you get an additional damage count, things of that nature. The other thing to note is if you go into Dark Mist stance and then you use another character on your team's attack card, so it has attack underneath it, the Dark Mist stance goes away. This makes Rin quite interesting because you want to chain her cards within, a window or a turn order before anyone else's cards activate from an attack standpoint. So that means like skill cards and upgrade cards are free for the taking, shield, heals, all of that. So you kind of want her to be your main DPS or your only DPS. So that's the important thing about Dark Mist. So let's talk about her Epiphany cards. So the bottom 4 Epiphany cards are just the baseline cards, and all of them are good. But drawing slash can also be epiphanied whenever you're going through chaos. So let's take a look at those options. So the first mode here is simply just additional damage on what you originally saw on the baseline card. This is important because it's a 0-cost attack card that gives you Dark Cloud stance. So it's a decent multiplier with something that gives you Dark Cloud or Dark Mist stance. They switch them up on you. So this is a very important card, and then you get the same baseline damage that you did originally. This one is a little bit less damage, but it becomes a stronger card if you already have the Dark Mist stance with an additional damage count. This one's a bit of a bait because it does take away the chance of you getting that Dark Mist stance, but it's an extremely high multiplier. I would only pick this card if you are a Giga Whale and you have multiple copies of Rin, because on her 6th copy, her T6 or whatever you want to call it, she starts the turn in Dark Mist stance. So then this card becomes bonkers. But if you're just a normal pleb like me, this is bait. I would not go for that. I also like this one as well because she does tend to pair really well with characters that draw a lot of cards to either enhance her attacks or to just help you draw into her combo pieces. So this one is probably one of the better ones depending on who you pair her with. But the 30% additional damage equal to the number of cards in your hand can scale very, very quickly. Sometimes you'll be using this card at the start of the turn and you'll get 160% multiplier because of all the cards in your hand. And then this one gives you the very high damage multiplier while also acquiring Dark Cloud stance with the 50 damage, but it does cost 2 AP. I also think this one's a bait. You really want Rin to just be using 1-cost and 0-cost cards. That is something that you definitely want. So I would say the main cards that you're targeting for Epiphany for drawing slash are these two in the middle. So drawing slash here, and then this drawing slash. So the second to the left and the second to the right. Now, when it comes to Dark Mist Secret Art Destruction, the baseline Epiphany card is good, where you draw a card and then you gain Dark Mist stance for 0 AP. That's awesome. But the best one to go for here is this one, where you draw Annihilation and Black Dance. I do have to preface this, though, by saying you need to actually have those cards Epiphany, because they're also Epiphany cards here, before you choose this, because there are times where you'll Epiphany this card and then get an additional Epiphany on top of it to choose this without Annihilation or Black Dance even triggering. So it makes it a little bit difficult at that point in time to do it, but if you do trigger Annihilation or Black Dance, you only need to trigger one of them for this to really be, worth it, because then the second one will eventually come along depending on where you are in the chaos, and this is just really good. I do think the upgrade card is interesting, especially, again, if you kind of pair her with other combo pieces, but the 2 cost, I think, is just too high. All of the other stuff is okay in its own right. One thing that I've found with this game is it's quite cool how many different combinations you can have, and we're only scratching the surface. Remember, this game came out, on October 22nd, so like 9 days ago. So we're still learning a lot of things. But if you're looking for certain epiphanies for this one, I always pick this, and it's been awesome because these 2 damage cards are really great. The Black Dance card, you cannot get just like normal epiphanies. I think you can get like a special epiphany on all of these cards, which is a completely different video for another day. But this totally revolves around skill cards, where the other one is just like raw damage and can scale really well. This one has to be kind of built around. So the Annihilation has some crazy epiphany buffs. So the first one is just raw damage with the same additional effect of 1 plus damage. This one is also very, very good. So the 55% times 2 may seem odd, but there are a couple cards in the game, as well as your partner, which we'll talk about in a second, which is like your weapon, can increase the damage of 1 cost cards and below by a certain percentage. So you can either change their multiplier or just increase the damage that they do. So if you change the multiplier, this can outscale this version of the card very, very quickly. So in some instances, this is the best type of card for you to pick over this one. And then there are some instances where just this type of damage is fine. So you have similar effect here, but also you get 100% critical damage. This is one of the cards I was referencing when I said that as you progress through this game, I think Rin is going to get very strong because of cards like this. 100% crit damage on a card for 1 cost is kind of nuts. But for the time being, it's a little tough to build. But at the same time, it can be quite good. So this one is just straight up like crazy damage. And then this one reduces the cards in your hand by 1 for a turn. So this is pretty interesting as well, because you can pair her with other characters that have 1 cost cards, and everything is just 0 AP, and you're just shuffling through and drawing tons of cards and just non-stop kind of hits on your opponent. One thing I also want to talk about on these cards is haste. Haste is a effect that scales really, really well into the game. There are times where you'll be going up against very difficult bosses where if you don't watch your card usage count, they can cut in front of you, put up big shields, they can immediately end your turn. So haste completely gets rid of that. It doesn't count towards the action count of the boss. So cards like this that have haste, I think is an underrated ability. So long story short, I think this one right here is very, very strong for early to mid-game accounts. And then eventually this middle one is most likely going to be the best. But there are some use cases for every single option in here. None of them are really that bad, which makes this card great. So the Dark Mist Inner Art card, this one's interesting. The retaining Dark Cloud stance means that you end up keeping the Dark Mist stance if somebody needs to cut in between your Rin. So like it's very situational, and also a cost of 1 just for the 30% attack damage isn't great. But there is a way to have this equal 0. I end up picking the 0 AP cost a little bit more. Often this one gives you more attack damage, which can be good. This one gives you that Annihilation card that we just looked at, but then it goes away forever, so you only get 1 use out of it. So this is interesting, and it still costs 1. This one is also interesting because this is a static ability. Upgrade cards are very, very good. They tend to be a little more expensive and don't do much right away, but they can be game changers. So the one on the far right is also very good. If you're in Dark Mist stance, like all of her attack card damage just is increased by 50% when you use this card like forever until the enemy is gone. And then this one gives you Dark Mist stance at the beginning. I think this one's a little bit of a bait as well. So I would say that the 0 AP one is pretty good. And then the 2 upgrade cards are probably one of your better bets. And like I said, this last one can't be epiphanied. Last thing we'll talk about before we go on to partners and other combatants that you want to pair her with is her ego skill. Very, very high damage multiplier, 400% damage, and she puts up 2 vulnerable. So I tend to like to save this on, the end bosses, crack this off, and then chain like 5 or 6 ring cards to maybe do like half the boss's HP meter in one go. So very awesome. Let's talk about the dupes real quick, because the dupes do change a crazy amount in this game. The dupes are very overpowered in this game, which make me happy to say that it's a PvE game only. But if they end up having PvP, wow, it'll be a whale fest. So the first upgrade is 20% damage to that Black Dance card, because it does have a low multiplier, but it can scale quickly. This one's super awesome. 2 copies of her gets you this Sheath Sword once a turn, but she has to be in Dark Mist stance. But it's 60% damage, so low multiplier, but it increases his damage by 20%, equal to the amount of attacks or Rin attack cards that you use. And if it's the last card in your hand or last Rin attack card, it's free. So this is like your combo finisher, but you get it for free. So that's awesome. 3 through or maybe 4 and 5 are just like kind of baseline abilities, but this one is also 50% additional damage to your ultimate, and then you get another stack of vulnerable, so very cool. This one's awesome as well. If Rin's not in Dark Mist stance when using her card, she gets it. So every card gets Dark Mist stance. This is the baseline. You just get +3, which is important, but it's not very flashy. And then this one, at the beginning of battle, obtain Dark Mist stance. This is what I was talking about with that 0 cost card with the very high multiplier, but you can't use it unless you're in Dark Mist stance. I think it makes sense to take it there when you have your Rin A6. And then at the beginning of the turn, if Rin is in Dark Mist stance, you obtain 2 morale for 1 turn, like crazy. Okay, partners. We're going to go to the agent collection here to talk about partners, because there are a couple that I think are okay on her. So Douglas is like the starter character, but you'll phase this partner out pretty quickly. I would not invest in him. Lillian, however, I think is perfect for Rin. It says right here that the attack cards of Rin with a cost of 1 or less, so 1 or 0, do 10% additional damage. And whenever the assigned combatant uses a skill card, so any of the cards that allowed her to retain Dark Mist stance, or the other one that got back the 2 damage cards, this will stack up and add additional attack damage onto your cards that are 1 or less. And it stacks up to 3 times. So you can get up to like 40% attack damage. And then her eco skill, or her ultimate, does an AoE, which is kind of important because Rin is all single target damage. She does an AoE, and then she draws an attack card of Rin's, as long as it is equal to 1 or less. So this is a very, very strong partner, at least for 4-star. This one is not built for her. This is for higher damage tier characters that have like high AP cost cards. Priscilla is one of the partners that you can get in the battle pass if you paid for it, and this is a good general, like just good general partner. I believe that the attack stat of this character, is going to be higher than the 4-star. So that is something, and it's just general damage. You don't need anything to activate, but because Rin is mostly 1-cost cards or lower, this one can be better in some instances, to be honest. But I think Scarlet is the better striker partner over the one that you can get in the battle pass. So if you ever pull this card or you want to put this card on your Rin, you can. I don't like to talk about these too much because I don't think they're needed, and I think you should just be pulling combatants anyway. So the other two are just like situational, similar versions of these other two that we looked at, and this one seems just very detailed for the new character, or like Owen. So yeah, those are the partners. When it comes to characters that you want to pair her with, we'll show you a run here. But the last things that I need to tell you about are the potentials. This is common with every single character in this game. You need to get this first node that's on the right. It just completely changes your character. It does not take a long time to get this. It maybe takes you 5 or 6 runs of the current potential that you have to run to acquire these, which is the blue pieces, so it's not hard. But as you can see here, these baseline cards, this first form and then the other card that cost 2, without this potential, you don't get Dark Mist Stance if you use them. So Rin is a completely different character. She's garbage. You need to buff this up. Her other potentials are really great. You get these from farming the weekly dungeon. You unlock that at stage 40. So at stage 40 on your account, you can then go in and do this 3 times a week. So these are really important. You don't want to ever miss these. So that is her potential. And when it comes to memory fragments, a good starter set is going to be just the raw attack. She is a void character in purple. So whenever a card is exhausted for 1 turn, she increases her void card damage. This is okay. I think there is a better set out there for her, which is this one, the Conqueror's Aspect, which is 35% critical damage of 1-cost cards. This does not equal or count towards the 0-cost cards, but as I was mentioning, those 2 1-cost cards from the Epiphany are her main damage-dealing cards, and I think this plays well with them. But this set is only going to be useful later on whenever you can get 100% crit rate on your Rin. And mine is nowhere near that right now. She's at 20%. So that's not as good of a set. Your right side pieces, I have critical chance. I've got void damage, and then I also have attack percentage. So ideally, I'm not quite sure what the options are here yet, but if I could stack like multiple crit rate, I probably would, or just more attack percent. So let's go into a run. We'll farm a little bit of like a partner stage right now, partner level ups, because I need to continue leveling up my partners. So who we're pairing her with, right? I think as a good general rule for people, Mika is a great character alongside X, right? So if you're running anybody but Rin as your damage dealer, Mika can always be your second spot, right? I think she's that universal. In the third spot here, we're using Ray. Ray is one of the characters that increases damage for 1-cost cards or less. She's also a decent sub DPS, and she can draw a okay amount of cards. So we'll show you what this team can do. You'll see some of the Epiphany cards that I have on my Rin. We'll talk about Dark Mist Stance, and then we'll get out of here because this is already 20 minutes long. Okay, so right now, we don't have any of Rin's cards. So when we're talking about our characters here, we have characters that increase our AP. So we have 3 AP, but Mika has this wave kind of mechanic where once you hit 3 waves, which are these little bubbles, you get an extra AP. So that's why we're running her. We also have the ability to draw more cards with our Mika as well with this gear bag, and we got a nice epiphany on it too that gives us an AP. So once we use Dark Blade, the gear bag's going to activate, and we might draw into some Rin cards. So we didn't, but that's okay. It does show us one of the Ray cards here where it says for 1 turn, 80% damage to cards with cost 1. So that's one of our Rin combo pieces. But sadly, we didn't draw any Rin cards. So this is more of a damage amplification team instead of like a Rin combo piece team. So here, we're still missing some Rin cards, but we do have a card that does increase the damage of one of the higher multiplier cards on our Rin. We can also go another option, like I said, where we just kind of get more DPS out of our Ray. And this is why it's nice having Ray here, is because if you don't have all the combo pieces of your Rin, you don't necessarily have to use her cards right at that moment. So we're still getting some good damage out of the Ray, and Rin's multipliers are just very high. Like she's doing some really good damage. This is also another case where your partner, because we don't have a Rin card, but we just used a card of Rin's that gave her the Dark Mist Stance, we can use this now, do some AoE damage, and then guarantee a Rin card in our hand. So we got another Dark Mist form, just a basic card, but it was enough to kill the enemy. So now we're starting to draw into some of our crazy Rin cards. And because it was the last card we used, we still have Dark Mist Stance on Rin. So we're going to take advantage of that and try and use some of our stronger cards. So this is one of the really good Epiphany cards that I got. This is that 157% times 2 damage. But this is where we have Ray using skill cards. Because remember, skill cards do not get rid of the Dark Mist Stance. So we'll use Ray's skill here to target this annihilation that we have. So now, instead of the 125% damage times 2, it does 225% damage times 2 with 100% critical damage and 100% tenacity. So if this card were ever to crit for us, whenever we have 100% crit, it's going to do some crazy damage. And then here we have Drawing Slash, which can eventually finish this enemy off. And then you have some other DPS options in there, even with Mika, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this is kind of the team composition. So because we used Whirlpool on Mika, we no longer have Dark Mist Stance, right? So that means all of these effects, like the 100% critical damage, are now gone. So we have to find ways to get it back. So we do have certain epiphanies on Mika that allow us to draw more cards. We also have some drawing from Ray where we can shift some cards out of here. So we'll take her card out because we want to draw one of the other cards left, which is Rin's. So here we have Black Secret Art Black Dance, but we don't have Dark Mist Stance, remember? So we have 2 options here. We can use Ray's card first to get more morale. So we're going to get 4 morale, which is 80% more damage because it's 4 of it. and each morale gives us 20% damage. So we'll use that first before we start activating our Dark Mist cards. So now we're going to get Dark Mist Stance, but it's going to do way more damage because the Rin or the Ray gave us morale, and we just got another stack. So now our damage is up to 100%. And we have some pieces on our save data with this Rin that allows follow-up attacks. It's pretty nuts, but I get to showcase the Epiphany version of that Secret Art Destruction card, so that's kind of fun. But first, I think we'll activate. Oh no, okay, well, yeah, whatever. We'll activate it. So we'll use the 0 cost card, and then we'll use Annihilation here. And here we got those 1 cost cards. Remember, Ray just boosted the damage of these. So this card is cranking out a lot of damage, and we got those 2 for free. And then same thing with this one. It increases the damage. Like the amount of damage that Rin does is just so cool. So yeah. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun playing her. If you have her, I mean, totally utilize her. I'll talk about just 1 or 2 other characters that I think you can pair with her other than the Ray. So I think Khalip is a pretty cool option because she has the ability to retain cards. So if you don't have all the necessary pieces for your Rin at that time, you can use this absolute protection and retain the skill cards that you want to use for Rin next turn when you draw more. So that's pretty cool. Veronica's also nice as she just generates kind of bullets and like does damage by just discarding, which is awesome. Who else is in here? Nia draws a lot of cards. Cassius draws a lot of cards. Beryl has some retain options. Yeah. Anyway, you just got to play around. But that's Rin in a nutshell, guys. Sorry, it's 26 minutes long. That's all I got for you today. I appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next one. See ya.